Yeah, so as the video goes and you hear rumbling, I'm totally eating Starburst gummies and drinking water. But after my last couple of videos that have had somewhat of a tense subject matter, I've had a couple of people ask me how I formed my opinion on these things. So today we're going to talk about that. Starburst gummies are so good. Why are they so good? They're sour too. Woo! Okay, as I'm sure everybody has noticed in the news, the Wii Spa issue. It's been everywhere. All up in our faces, whether we wanted to be in our faces or not. Much like the poor lady that went to the spa. That was rude. Anyway, let's discuss this. Everybody is like defending the individual that went to the spa that still had biological male genitalia. There's no other nice way to put this. It's just going to be a lot of biological terms. Unless I really want to go rude, and I'm trying really not to. Really not to. And everybody was like, well, that was the only option. He had to feel safe. They're wrong. There was actually, if you go to the Wii Spa and you research the spa itself, they actually have a male area, a female area, and a co-ed area. So there were multiple options. And then I've had people say, well, that was the only option where they felt safe to change and be unclothed. They weren't changing. They were actively taking advantage of the amenities such as the jacuzzi. So they were not just in and out changing. They were actively, openly enjoying various aspects of the spa while naked. And then I've had other people say, well, if they didn't want to see naked bodies, they shouldn't have taken themselves and their children to a naked spa. Now, I'm a mother who probably would never take my child to a spa, even if I was 100% assured that the only bodies that my child was going to see was bodies of their own biological inclination. I still wouldn't take my child to a spa because it takes out of my control the portrayal of how to handle yourself and your body. And that's something that when my child is that young and impressionable, I want to be in control of. I don't want them seeing something or from someone else, hearing something from someone else, or seeing a behavior from someone else that they think I would approve of because I've taken them to this environment where I can't control anyone else's behavior. So I wouldn't take my child anyway. However, in some cultures, it is a very much of a family thing for the sexes to break off and go into what they call bathing areas. And it is something that their culture and their heritage and their ancestry has embraced and done for thousands of years. And it's something that they deem part of their culture. Now, do I understand that? No, not really. But then again, there are things about my lived life that people wouldn't understand. So I have to kind of go, okay, whatever. And just say, you know, let it be, because if I want my freedoms the way that to live my life, I have to allow you yours. Because there's been no issues saying we're harming each other or living our, you know, our standards. This, however, is when someone spoke up and said, okay, this is causing harm, so we have to address it. Everyone keeps saying, Mama Liz, what makes you uncomfortable about this? What makes me uncomfortable is that this grown person who is confused in their own right is going to a place where they have three options. One that they biologically match now, one that they biologically want to match but currently do not, and one where both are freely accepted. And instead of thinking of themselves and how compatible and compliant their presentment is going to be with others, because we live society with others and we have to think about others, they did what was most comfortable or most sought out for themselves. Now, I get it. I get it. We all want to do our own thing. But when there are children involved, sometimes we have to take a step back and say, I have to make a better decision. I have to make a decision based on the betterment of everyone involved. And for me, in that scenario, I watched a grown adult make a decision to take their body into the least appropriate option available, and the only option available that would have small children, specifically small girls. Because I don't believe it's not really known, it's not really acceptable for the kids to go in the co-ed. That's more for adults, from what I'm reading from the information in the SPA research. And for the women that do this, their cultures do this with their young women. It's very much a bonding. It's a bonding thing. It's how they teach the young women to take care of themselves and their bodies, and it's very sacred. And so I can understand why they would not enjoy this. Me, as an ex-officer of the law, I look at that and go, okay, I understand the inclination that this person wants to be seen as a female, but I also understand that while mentally they want to be seen as a female, biologically they cannot yet be seen as female, because biologically they still view and present as a male. However you want to camouflage yourself in public with dress and makeup, that's great. But when you get down to the skin of things, you have to be a little bit more respectful. And that's just point blank honesty right there. As ex-law enforcement, I look at that and say that we have someone who could have made 3 choices, 2 of which could have been passable. And that person chose to pick the one area to enter that would cause the most issues, and the only area that would have young girls actively nude. As a parent, I have to look at that and realize that that man, which is what he presents as with his genitalia, terrified a lot of women who mentally and emotionally thought they were in a safe place and able to be enjoying their time with their loved ones and their close family. And I can say that for women, especially smaller frame women, it can be disturbing and scary to have someone of the opposite gender stroll through with twig and berries out on display. I grew up on the farm, but I still had parents that spoke to me about this. And even when we bred the horses, we bred them behind the back barn because it wasn't something we wanted to put on display because he's playing. And even when we had our studs out and about, we monitored them because we didn't want to put our studs out in the front pasture to graze. Have someone put a mare in heat up the hill in a pasture, have that scent dive down, and have our stud put on display for every passing car. We think about things like that because that's a discussion that we think parents need to have with their children, but it's also a discussion that parents that have children want society to say, hey, let's not force the issue and make you have this discussion sooner than you should, sooner than the safety for your child dictates, sooner than the emotional maturity for your child dictates. So society had kind of some blanket understandings and rulings about this. And they're out the window now. They're out the window. And the window got left open. And everybody's crawling through it. And we should have seen it coming. Now, do I have anything against transgender people? Absolutely not. I don't live that life. I don't live your life. And as long as you are not creating fear or sparking animosity or possibly endangering young people, I got no problem with it. Like, everybody in my area was upset when the drag queen people wanted to have story time at the library. I don't care who reads the book, as long as they're reading a book. Now, if they came there to talk about their sexuality and their job and to be overtly sexual and behave overtly sexual, I have a problem with that. But that's not what I saw in my area. I saw them dress up and come read a book, and many times they would dress up as the character in the book, which I thought was great. If you have skills for makeup and theater and drama, and you can find a way to appropriately apply them for everyone to benefit, do it. It's great. Do it. I had no problem with it. Now, if you're going to go there where the cha-cha's hanging out and talking about things we don't need to talk about at the age that most of those children are, no, I have a problem with that. But I have no problem with anyone of any sex reading any book to any child in a library setting, because that's a controlled and monitored setting. If they're going in and they're reading a book, I have no problem with that, because quite often, no matter how made up and flamboyant you are, that child is going to think that you are just a character, portraying a character and presenting the book in a more active and flamboyant manner. I got no problem with that. I got no problem with that. When they're older and they figure it out, then we'll have a discussion, or when I think it's the right time, we'll have a discussion. But I got no problem with that. But I have seen this lifestyle create issues for people. And I'm going to talk about that, and then I'm going to shut up. I keep eating these, and I shouldn't. I had a really good friend that I knew because of my love of Queen. I'm a huge Queen fan. I'm a huge Freddie Mercury fan. And for many reasons, that's why I'm so accepting of people with other lifestyles than myself. And he was a young man in his 30s and struggled with a lot of mental health issues, societal anxiety issues. And so I was immediately drawn to try to help this person calm down and enjoy their time when they would go to a Queen function. I wanted them to be able to enjoy themselves and not be so terrified. And I normally have a calming effect on people, so I thought this may be great. And it was great. For a few years, it was great. And we had a great friendship. I would actually even drive and go watch horror movies and spend the night. My husband's like, go have girls' night, because he understood the inclination, and it was not a problem. Well, then they began starting to discuss about transitioning. And I said, if this is something that you think is at the core of the issues you're having, then I think you should absolutely go and talk to somebody. Go through the steps to confirm that there is some gender dysphoria and some issues. If this is something that could absolutely help that, and you choose to seek out that path and do it in a safe way, I'm going to back you 110% the whole way. And so they went and they got started. Almost immediately, it was like Whiplash. They were starting hormones. I was like, whoa, we've not even addressed past medical issues, past medication concerns, current medications we're on, and transitioned care. Are you sure this is happening kind of fast? Are you sure this is somebody that you can trust? Well, I was kind of berated because you're not happy for me. No, I'm very happy for you. I just also know that for you to be very happy in the future, we have to be very careful now. And so they started kind of getting a little sassy with me, and I was like, you know something, I don't want to be the one that you think is trying to rain on your parade. I just care about you. No matter how you dress, what you want to name yourself, what pronouns you choose, I just care about you. Within just a few months, they had began already dressing fully as a female, a new name, new pronouns. And I still didn't mind. I was actually quite jealous of the makeup skills and the wigs. I can't pull it off. I'm just too burly for those things. I have not a problem, because everything at that point is reversible. I have no problem with that. You're exploring, you're seeing if this is right, you're going to your therapy, and they're exploring these options, and that's great. We're being careful. Then almost immediately, we just had started hormones. Just almost immediately was the conversation immediately of surgeries. Facial surgeries, body surgeries, top and bottom surgery. And I was kind of like, oh, well, that's rapid. Like this, I think this is a decision that requires a little bit more time to make sure that when you get to the top of the hill you're climbing, you're going to be happy with your view. Let's just be careful and take a little bit more time and research options and maybe have a second opinion and stuff like that. So I obviously was not their favorite person at that moment. And I started to notice that a lot of the anxiety and the anger issues and the impulse control issues that they were having before all of this, that when they started to talk about the transition stuff kind of evaporated, they were coming back. But they were telling people and telling caregivers that they were still gone. That they were not having the anger issues, the impulse issues, the anxiety issues. That it was still all gone. They were great. They were so great. But I was seeing it. I was actually having it aimed toward me. And so one night, they had tried to call me at like 2 a.m. and had an emergency. I was asleep. They were mad at me that I was asleep. I said, I'm sorry, but I have health problems myself. Sometimes if I do sleep and I'm sleeping well, I don't hear my phone. I apologize. What's going on? Well, they wanted to talk about the surgery. And I said, honestly, I'm just going to be completely honest with you because I love you. And I love whoever you choose to be, but I want you to love who you're going to end up being. And I think that means that you need to really hear a lot of different perspectives and talk to a lot of different medical professionals and a lot of different therapeutic viewpoints. I think you're speeding towards something that you think is going to be a band-aid to fix all this, and it's not. And they were like, well, why do you think that? Well, the behavioral issues, the impulse control, the anxiety, the anger, all of that, well, yeah, it's better now. It's better now. I said, it was better for a while, but it's coming back. I see the behavior coming back. No, you don't. Whoa, no. Did you just see that? I see it coming back. And all I want to say is that this may be something you do end up doing. And if it is, that's great. I'll support you. But I want you to understand from my perspective, I think you have had something to distract you from the problem, the root issue, which causes all the behaviors, all the anxiety, all the anger, all the impulse control issues. I think this has been a distraction, and you've had a new social group and new possibilities, and it's distracted you, but then as it's settled and you see that the norm comes back, no matter how good the distraction is, eventually you kind of shake down back to where you were. We're starting to see those old negatives come up again. So perhaps this is not the end-all be-all fix-all that you think it is going to be, and I just want you to maybe think about that and talk to your professionals about that. That was the last time I spoke to my friend. Because I would not 100% agree with them, I was absolutely just shut out of their life. I would have done that for somebody going through trans surgery. I would have done that for somebody going through a facelift. I would have had that discussion for someone that was fixing to have a optional sterilization process at a young age. That anybody going through anything medical or psychological and medical and hormonal, I'm going to say these warning things because I'm that little person. I'm the little elephant on Tarzan. Are you sure this water's sanitary? That's who I am. And it was not meant to be evil. It was not meant to be vindictive. It was not meant to be hurtful. It was meant to say, no matter how fast or slow you go with this, your true friends are going to be there with you. But I vote for a little bit slower to make sure that you're happy and that you are very knowledgeable about what you're fixing to go through. So lots of times, while one side is supposed to bend over and be super accepting, the other side still has a lot of regulations and dreams and expectations they get to put out for other people to meet. And that is unhealthy because it seems like we're all bending over backwards to meet other people's expectations. But if I talk about just being a straight married woman with children, I'm bigoted and harassing people that live differently than me. But I have to sit here all day and watch TV shows and commercials and parades down Main Street about how they love and celebrate their life. So it's kind of a catch-22. It's kind of a catch-22. I don't mind watching other people embrace themselves and their lifestyle as long as they do it in a way that is appropriate and where no one's getting a free show and it's appropriate. And I, in turn, don't talk about the very private and intimate times of what it is to be a straight, middle-aged, old, fat, burly woman in Appalachia that's been married 20 years. And I would like to say, you're welcome, because you really don't want to know anyway. But it just seems that the tow bridge that each side is letting down, one is expected to be let down all the way, and the other one does this constantly. And we're all getting this job, and they think it's completely appropriate, and it is not. And so, yes, in my perspective, this person that went into the specific spa room that they did, it was not a locker room, it was not a changing room, it was an active spa where they were naked and participating in various stations in the spa, that then addled up and went straight to the jacuzzi with the young woman in it, almost singling out, because there were very few children. I guess that was the most prominent one that was first in eyesight. I think it's troublesome. I think it's troubling. And I think it's troubling in our nation that had that person snapshotted their privates and sent it via text or direct message or email, they would be possibly facing sexual crimes. But because they had the tagline, I'm a woman, said before they walked into this change room or this spa, then it's okay to present what is a criminally is a criminal offense otherwise. They're allowed to do it openly. It doesn't make sense. And there's a lot of stuff starting to not make sense in our world. And we have to try to sit down and have these talks and try to meet in the middle, because we cannot any longer expect one side of the equation to bend over backwards. We have to meet in the middle, and we have to delineate what the middle is. And to do that, we have to talk, and to talk, we have to use words. And some of those words might be upsetting or might be offensive to people that don't like to hear them. But let me tell you something: if you're going to cause these social issues and you're going to champion these social causes that have to do with your sexuality and your physical presentment of your body and body modification, then you're going to have to learn how to become okay with these words and this communication and these dialogues, because we have to have them. We have to have them. It would be horrible for the U.S. to fall because mainstream America didn't want a 9-year-old girl to know what twig and berries look like, but everybody else did. I want to know when the world became about adults that have choices and protecting those adults and their choices instead of protecting children that are dependent upon adults and have no rights. And it was, in my eyes, it should be more important to protect our children. And that's how I see it. And I don't believe I'm being disrespectful. I'm actually quite left-leaning for my area, but I also have to look at life in its absolute entire scope and understand that people that have not had children, been responsible for children, raised children, or understand or have seen sexual predators like I have with my last job, they don't always understand the entire spectrum of what is occurring. And that's why we have to have these discussions. We have to become comfortable having these discussions. And if you are one of these young adults that want to attack me for my words or think I'm being horrible having this discussion or I shouldn't be able to talk about this, then you're who I'm talking about. You cannot dictate other people's existence because you want your existence to dictate the world. That's not how this happens. We have to meet in the middle. We have to coexist, and we have to be respectful of everyone. But we have to, most importantly, protect those that depend on us for everything. And that's our little babies and our children. Because they don't understand the world we're pushing them into. And if you think a 9-year-old should be comfortable with the opposite sex's body thrust in their face, we need to have bigger discussions than the one I just had. You need to go sit in criminal court one day when there's sex offenses coming up. You you need to be able to pull some public courtroom interrogations where you have to listen to sexual predators state what they've done to people. It's very real, and that's why it's a very real fear. Does it apply to everyone in that genre? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. But it is a concern that we have to have as a real spotlight on the scenario. And that's how Mama Liz sees it. And that's enough gabbing for tonight. Give me your opinions down below. We've got to learn to talk about this stuff as a nation, or we're going to, my God. Just, I've got so much more to talk about, but I'm going to stop here. But fill me in on how you believe below. Maybe you'll say something that will make me think a different way and enlighten me. Maybe I have said something that enlightened you. We need to start talking about this. So tell me below. Mama Liz out.